A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
There are horror villains that terrify audiences because of what they do, and then there are monsters that terrify us because of what they understand. Hannibal Lecter belongs to the second category. He does not scream, he does not chase, he does not rage, he does not need masks, supernatural powers, or elaborate mythology to command fear. He simply is in a room, and he completely owns it. That is what makes Hannibal Lecter one of the most psychologically disturbing characters ever created in cinema history. Because beneath the intelligence, the sophistication, and the calm voice exists something deeply unnatural, something that's cold, something predatory, something that views humanity the same way a scientist studies insects under glass. And what makes Hannibal Lecter truly horrifying is not just that he kills people. It's that he understands people better than they understand themselves.
Read Marcus Aurelius. Of each particular thing, ask, what is it in itself? What is its nature? What does he do, this man you seek?
Throughout films like The Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, and Red Dragon, Lecter is presented almost like an intellectual god hidden inside the body of a man. He sees weakness instantly. He identifies fear immediately. He notices insecurity in seconds. Every conversation with him becomes psychological warfare. And the terrifying part is, he rarely even raises his voice.
Please listen to me. We've only got 5.
No, I will listen now.
That calmness is the foundation of Hannibal Lecter's horror. Most movie monsters lose control eventually. Their violence explodes outward emotionally. Anger, revenge, hatred, jealousy. Something pushes them into chaos.
We're gonna kill every last one of you.
Lecter is different. His violence often feels calculated before it even happens. That creates an entirely different kind of fear because it suggests that the monster is not broken emotionally. The monster is functioning perfectly. In many ways, Hannibal Lecter represents the nightmare of intelligence without morality. He is cultured, refined, educated, artistic, and disciplined. But all of those human qualities exist alongside unimaginable brutality. That contradiction is what makes him unforgettable. Normally, audiences associate sophistication with civilization. We assume educated people operate above savagery. Lecter completely destroys that assumption. He proves that intelligence does not automatically create humanity. Sometimes it simply creates a smarter predator. And perhaps the greatest example of this exists in The Silence of the Lambs. Anthony Hopkins barely appears in the film compared to most villains, and yet Hannibal Lecter dominates every single frame that he occupies. Why? Because the film understands something crucial about fear. Anticipation is more powerful than action. The moment Clarice Starling first approaches his prison cell, the atmosphere changes completely. The camera slows down. The hallway feels suffocating. Other prisoners scream, spit, and behave like animals. But Lecter stands still, calm, waiting, observing. That stillness immediately separates him from everyone else. He doesn't feel like another inmate. He feels like something being contained. And when he finally speaks to Clarice, the audience instantly recognizes the danger is not physical, it's psychological. Lecter begins dissecting her immediately. He studies her accent, her insecurities, her background, her emotional wounds. Every sentence feels like surgery. Clarice is trying to interview him, but Hannibal is the one truly in control.
Good nutrition's giving you some length of bone, but you're not more than one generation from poor white trash, are you, Agent Starling?
That power dynamic becomes the core terror of the film, because Hannibal Lecter doesn't just attack bodies, he attacks identity. He understands how to dismantle people emotionally. He exposes insecurities with terrifying precision. He forces characters to confront truths they desperately try to hide from themselves. And that is why audiences remain fascinated by him decades later. He feels less like a man and more like judgment itself. What makes Lecter especially disturbing is how he often appears emotionally honest compared to the people around him. Many characters in these films lie constantly, to society, to others, and to themselves. Lecter rarely pretends. He knows exactly what he is. There's no internal conflict, no guilt, no denial. That self-awareness makes him feel almost mythological. In many ways, Hannibal Lecter resembles the classic literary devil archetype, not a screaming demon surrounded by fire, but an intelligent manipulator who exposes hidden truths. He tempts, he studies, he reveals, and most importantly, he sees through masks. That is why his conversations are so mesmerizing. Every interaction becomes a battle between truth and illusion. Clarice Starling tries to maintain professionalism. Will Graham tries to maintain psychological stability. Dr. Chilton tries to maintain authority. Lecter strips these illusions apart effortlessly. He sees weakness immediately because he understands human nature at its ugliest level. And perhaps that understanding comes from the fact that Hannibal Lecter himself exists beyond ordinary human morality. He doesn't operate according to laws, guilt, empathy, or emotional attachment the way normal people do. Instead, he behaves according to his own private philosophy, a philosophy rooted in superiority. Lecter sees most people as crude, rude, vulgar, and spiritually empty. In his mind, humanity often behaves like animals pretending to be civilized.
There are shallow rollers and there are deep rollers. You can't breed two deep rollers, or they're young, their offspring will roll all the way down, hit and die. Agent Starling is a deep roller, Barney. Let us hope one of her parents was not.
Ironically, Hannibal himself may actually be the most honest monster in the room. That's part of the uncomfortable brilliance of the character. Sometimes audiences catch themselves admiring him, not because they support his violence, but because of his intelligence, confidence, and absolute control. And that creates a dangerous psychological effect. Lecter seduces audiences intellectually. He becomes charismatic. That charisma is essential to understanding why the character works so powerfully. If Hannibal Lecter were simply grotesque and violent, he would not be legendary. What makes him iconic is the contradiction. The monster is elegant. The killer appreciates art, music, poetry, fine dining, classical culture. The horrifying implication is that evil does not always look monstrous externally. Sometimes evil looks sophisticated. That idea deeply unsettles people because it destroys comforting assumptions about morality. We want villains to look visibly dangerous. We want darkness to announce itself clearly. Lecter does the opposite. He hides monstrosity behind refinement, and because of that, every smile feels threatening. Every calm conversation feels dangerous, and every moment of politeness feels unnatural. Even his physical stillness becomes terrifying because the audience constantly senses the violence underneath it. There is always the feeling that something ancient and predatory is staring through his eyes. That feeling becomes even stronger in Red Dragon and Hannibal, where the myth of Lecter evolves beyond ordinary criminality. By that point, Hannibal Lecter feels almost supernatural emotionally, even though the films never portray him as literally supernatural. He moves through society like a ghost, invisible, intelligent, untouchable.
What are you thinking now? Are you paying attention to me, ex-Special Agent Starling? Are you by any chance trying to trace my whereabouts?
And perhaps the most chilling aspect of all is how adaptable he is. Lecter can function in elite society effortlessly because he understands people completely. He knows how humans perform normalcy, which raises a terrifying question. How many monsters walk among ordinary people unnoticed? That idea taps into one of humanity's deepest fears, the fear of hidden evil. The fear that darkness can wear a human face convincingly, and no cinematic character embodies that fear better than Hannibal Lecter. But there is another layer to Lecter that makes him even more fascinating. Despite his cruelty, he possesses an almost warped sense of morality. Hannibal punishes rudeness, he despises vulgarity, he values intelligence and discipline. In his own distorted worldview, he often believes his violence has a purpose. That complexity prevents him from becoming a generic villain. He operates according to principles, twisted principles, but principles nonetheless. And audiences are strangely drawn towards characters who possess internal codes, even horrifying ones, because structure creates fascination. Chaos is scary, but controlled evil is unforgettable. That is why Hannibal Lecter lingers in popular culture so powerfully. He represents the idea that intelligence alone cannot save humanity from darkness. In fact, intelligence may simply make darkness more efficient, and that idea becomes especially disturbing when combined with Anthony Hopkins' performance. Hopkins never overplays Lecter. He uses silence masterfully, tiny facial movements, subtle eye contact, calm vocal rhythms. Everything about the performance feels restrained. That restraint creates tension because the audience senses constant control beneath the surface. Hannibal Lecter is terrifying precisely because he never appears emotionally unstable. He appears composed. That composure transforms him into something colder than rage, pure calculation, and in many ways that is the central horror of Hannibal Lecter. Not insanity, not control. He represents evil that understands itself completely. There's no confusion or emotional collapse, and definitely no panic, just intelligence without conscience. That is why Hannibal Lecter remains one of cinema's greatest monsters, because he forces audiences to confront uncomfortable truths about humanity itself. The line between civilization and savagery may not be as large as we pretend. Intelligence does not guarantee morality. Culture does not erase brutality. Sophistication does not eliminate monstrosity. Sometimes the darkest people in the room are also the calmest, and perhaps that is why he continues to haunt audiences decades later. Not because he behaves like an animal, but because he behaves like a man who fully understands the animal that is hidden inside of everyone else. Hannibal Lecter is not just a killer. He is the terrifying realization that evil can become intelligent, cultured, patient, and beautifully disguised. And that may be the most frightening monster of all. So what do you think about Hannibal Lecter? Is he the monster that everyone claims he is? Let us know in the comments, and please check out some of my other videos containing many other video essays on movies and characters. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.
Mm-hmm.